Welcome to the Spring Major Golf Clash Tournament here for 2022 on the Soaring Eagle Golf Clash YouTube channel. This is the first video, by the way, so if you guys want fun, informative, and interesting guides for the tournament's golden shots, or if you need help with tour play, this is your go-to channel. But today we are going to be focusing on the Spring Major Tournament. So pay attention, I've got close adjustments and good stuff coming up right now. So stay tuned. I will go ahead and go over the first hole now. So for hole number 1, you want to drive this down as far down the fairway as you possibly can. Use all your topspin, and no side spin. And we want, if you have an APOC that has more distance than the extra mile, go ahead and use that. But if you have the extra mile and the APOC, the adjustment is max distance from max line and 10% elevation. And we're going to center the ball and hit perfect, which is what I hope to hit. And we hit a great left, but it doesn't really harm us. It just puts us in kind of an interesting little setup. But we're still in short iron range to the green. So for the second shot, we are going to, if you have the thorn, you're going to want to use that instead, because you have more backspin on it. And we want to really take advantage of that, because on this hole, as you can see, there is no real way to kick it back into the cup or the hole, because you can't really get a downward slope. So you have to adjust it perfectly if you want to have a chance to drop an eagle, which we unfortunately end up missing. But anyway, enough of that. If you're playing with the Hornet, it's max distance plus 10% or 20% over, or negative 10% elevation. But if you are playing with the Thorn, make sure to pull it up more and use backspin to kick it back into the hole. And that will be mid distance plus 20. We hit a perfect shot, and we still do not go in. Unfortunately, we bounce over the hole. See, this is the problem with the hole, and we land on the fringe. And I just did some basic Embringer school shot. No elevation, and it dropped back into the hole nicely for a birdie. So for hole number 2, there are a couple ways to actually play this hole. The first way is there are two options. You can either rough bump on the right, or you can bounce or do a bounce over. I personally prefer the bounce over because it's less risky, and it actually gives you a better chance at getting a hole-in-one than if you do the rough bump. So I'm going to use about 3 bars of backspin, make sure the ball guide is going just slightly through the hole. And then what we're going to do is we're going to pull up our rings. And as you can see, we are at the max line. So max line, 0 elevation. We have to adjust about 5 rings of overpower. If you have a tailwind, this won't be necessary. And we do hit a great ball to the right. But because of the funnel, it's going to take the ball and it's going to roll it directly down into the pin for a beautiful hole-in-one on hole number 2. So for hole number 4, I'm going to show you 2 examples. This is a really nightmarish par 5. We're going to probably see a lot of birdies on this one when the tournament actually begins at 3 a.m. Eastern tomorrow. But what you're going to need to do, I'm going to show you 2 examples, one in tailwind and one in headwind. This is the headwind example. No matter what, we're still going to play it the same way, but you're going to have to. But for this one, you're going to want to use either your extra mile or your apocalypse, whichever one gives you the more distance and the most topspin. So whatever club that matches, either APOC, we're going to use about 5 rings of overpower, and we are going to hit perfect. A great left or a great right will land you in the water, so try and make sure you do not miss the great left, or make sure you do not miss the perfect, because if you do, that's what's going to happen. So if you have tailwind instead of a headwind, we are going to play it the exact same way, but we are going to, if you feel comfortable, try and go aggressive. I didn't really want to go aggressive because I was just worried about landing into the water. But anyway, you don't have to adjust into overpower or anything like that. You're just going to shift the rings the adjustments are still max plus 10% elevation. So just pull over the bullseye and you will be just fine. You will adjust into the water, just so you know. And make sure you are using a power 4 ball. And remember to hit perfect. Because again, just like the headwind, you do risk the water if you hit a great left or a great right. So we bounce on the first fairway, we bounce and then do a third bounce and roll up there. So we have a beautiful shot for our second shot. So for the second shot, what we are going to do is we're going to play with the B52. I'm going to use the B52 level 4 because it'll help adapt to lower level B52 clubs, other than levels 2 and 1, which don't have any topspin. So I'm going to use all the topspin and a bar of left spin, making sure that or a slight bit of left spin, to make sure that we have the ball guide going directly through the hole on the right-hand side. And directly through the hole. Probably should be more to the right, because as I take this shot and hit the perfect shot, so elevation is mid-distance plus 10%, and that probably should be a little more to the right instead of where it was, because when we hit the perfect shot, we will end up rough bumping, which is what our intention was to do. But as you can see how the green sort of tilts it to the right, down to the left a little bit. That could have been in if that was a little bit more to the right, I think. So for hole number 4, we're going to go ahead and perform the classic rough bump. So we're going to use the quarterback, and we are going to align the ball guide just so that way it's going slightly through the hole. And while I do that, I'm also pulling back a couple of rings as well, like about half a ring or so, very important, to make sure that we don't miss the rough since this is a downward slope. Adjustment here is mid plus 20% elevation. We are using the quarterback, pulling over about 7 rings. And our goal will be to center the ball and hit perfect. Which we do, hit perfect. The ball hits the rough, which is what we want, and it's slightly too far to the right to drop in. But other than that, we did a real nice shot. So for hole number 5, what we're going to start by doing is we're going to start by pulling. You can either use the extra mile or the apocalypse, whichever gives you the most distance. Then you're going to want to pull up to the max line of the driver. And then what we want here is we want to bounce twice on the fairway. Third bounce would be in the rough and roll out. We do not want to bounce on the fairway for the third time, because if we bounce on the fairway for the third time, we are going to end up maybe risking the rough in the front. So adjustment here is we are adjusting from max line, 10% elevation, and we are hoping to hit another perfect shot, which we do, or hit a great left. But even though we hit a great left, we're still going to be fine. We bounce once, we bounce twice, and then we bounce and then roll out, which is exactly what we wanted to do, as we are in a good spot. So for this second shot, what we really need is distance. And for that, the Cataclysm, the big dog, definitely not the sniper, maybe in some situations the hammerhead, but the Cataclysm, the big dog are the two that I would recommend. We have max distance, -10 elevation. That means it's an upslope, and we are going to want to try and hit perfect, which we do hit perfect. But we do create kind of a long putt at the back of the green. It's not impossible, and we do not need to overpower the putt. So it rolls toward the back of the green, and we have kind of a long putt, but it doesn't require any overpower, so there's no strength. So there's no issue. So for hole number 6, I play this with, anytime you have tailwind on this hole, you're going to want to play aggressive. So what you're going to do, if you have a tailwind, you're going to pull it up, all the way up. Like, I'm just giving off, like, if you have a headwind or something right now, and then if you have a tailwind, you're going to want to go ahead and pull it up like I'll do in a moment. Yeah, like that. You're going to pull it up like that and play from max line. And then you're going to do a lot of overpower and a little bit of slight curl and try and drive that down as far as you possibly can. This one you're going to want to go ahead and use about a bowl of curl to the right and try and hit perfect. We accidentally do clip the roof, but we end up having a really nice shot. Try and stay to the right side if possible, so that way you have a clean shot to the green. So for our second shot, you're going to want to go with any 180-yard wood club, such as the Big Dog or the Cataclysm, one of the two. And then here I am trying to find if I can bounce over, and I realize that's not a good idea. So then I proceed to do a roof bump with my Cataclysm. And then what I will do is the adjustments are max distance from max line and -10. And as I'm adjusting the rings, I'm also pushing back up to max at the same time to make sure that I get the most distance out of the club as possible. And then what we're going to do is we're going to center the ball and hit perfect. And what we are supposed to do is roof bounce like this, roll. It's going to come onto the green kind of slowly, and then the green's slope is just going to push it down toward the middle of the green, so therefore you can put the ball. And this is the problem that happened to me. I did not create a very long putt. I did not create a putt that I had to overpower either, so that's a plus. But anyway, just put that in and you have saved yourself your birdie. So for hole number 7, I actually like the rocket on this hole, but if you happen to have a headwind, you are going to have to go ahead and use the quarterback. But if you have a tailwind, I would use the rocket, so therefore you can take advantage of its backspin that it has. So I'm going to apply 2.5 bars of side spin and 1 bar backspin. And then the adjustment here is max plus 15% elevation. And we're going to just pull over the bullseye, just like so. And we are going to try and hit perfect. Unfortunately, we do end up hitting a minor great left, as you're about to see. But if that was perfect, that probably would drop into the hole. But you see how you get that nice little roll? If that was perfect, that would have easily rolled right in. So for hole number 8, you are going to want to use either the extra mile or the apocalypse, whichever one gives you more distance. I'm going to use a kingmaker in this example because we need the 3 bars of left spin and 15 yards of extra power. So I'm applying spins, full top spin, full left spin, and then the adjustment here is max line plus 10% elevation. And we are going to pull over the bullseye as usual, countering that elevation. And then we adjust like 2 rings of overpower, and we hit perfect. Bounces nicely on the fairway. The thing is, you don't want to go too much overpower, because if you do, you're going to end up hitting the roof. And then it'll be really hard to get to the green. So for the second shot, we're going to want to use the B52, mainly for its distance. Now, I'm trying to find the min and max line with the 2 clubs, because I'm sort of in between here. But I sort of settled for the B52, and its minimum distance, and its mid-distance. So we're not at max distance line, so we're at mid-distance line plus a 10% elevation. We're going to pull over the bullseye as per usual, and we're going to center the ball. And unfortunately, we do hit a minor great left here. If that was a perfect shot, that probably would have gone in. So just take my advice, hit the perfect shot, and you'll go in, hopefully. So So hole number 9, I'm starting out with a blast off ball or a power 4 ball. Just make sure you have a bowl or a club with decent curl. So make sure you have at least 4 bars of side spin, or at least can curl quite a bit to the left. So I would recommend either the Apocalypse or the Extra Mile, whichever one gives you more distance. And then the adjustments for this one will be max distance, max line, plus 10% elevation once you factor in all of the adjustments. So we're going to pull over the bullseye as always. And we're going to center the ball and hit perfect. Perfect bowl. And then we bounce on the fairway. And then we curve around. You want to be careful on the amount of topspin you use here and where you place it. Because if you don't place it in the right place, it's going to go too far. So taking a look here at the second shot, you're going to want to make sure that we have something with 180 yards of distance. So that'd be the big dog or the cataclysm, because we also need a lot of curl. So our adjustment here is max distance plus 10. We're going to pull over the bullseye. And unfortunately, we do end up hitting a minor great bowl to the left. But what we can do is we're going to center the ball. And we do hit that minor great left, as I already mentioned. But it's alright in the end. It leaves me right on the fairway. And to get it into the hole, I just play some basic end-bringer school to chip it in. And it works out beautifully, and it drops really nicely for the eagle. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I hope if you got some value out of this, consider looking out throughout the channel. This is the first video, so it probably wasn't the best. But as I go more and more throughout making these, let me know about how I can improve. So, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to comment, like, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed this, and I'll see you next time.